Hi, I'm Alan Ross of EPRA, and this is another EPRA Take 5. My guest today is Bill Rodeman, who I met at the Electric Power Reliability Summit. He is with Land O'Lakes in Talmadge, Ohio, but he's responsible for corporate electrical reliability. And for a young engineer to be able to do that, it is brilliant and challenging. Welcome, Bill. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So as you do this, you're going to face a lot of challenges, but three of them that seem to be very common to a lot of people who are trying to bring corporate electrical reliability are one of them is the retiring of professionals up and down the ranks. So there's a lot of native knowledge that's in your plants that has been there a long time, and suddenly the 40-year guy leaves, and he leaves with all of that knowledge, or the technician that was doing testing for you leaves. And so you've got to deal with a retiring labor force as one of your challenges. You've got old and new facilities. Land O'Lakes is not sleeping. That's a company that's growing, and I know you make a lot of things besides butter. And as you grow, you see new plants, old plants, they buy companies, they sell a plant. So you're in a very dynamic asset environment. And then lastly, one of the challenges we see is that ultimately plant management and operations is about producing a product and getting it out the door. So you've got to be able to work with plant leadership, operational leadership, to bring about a corporate program, but not get in the way or make it difficult for them to do their job. So I've laid those three challenges out to you, and I'd love to hear your response to how you are dealing with them.
Awesome, absolutely. Those are three of the major challenges that we are facing here, and especially when it comes to the retirement of professionals out there that just take a vast amount of knowledge with them. That certainly is a major issue, and really any type of retirement is going to be a major issue. No matter who it is, they're going to be taking some form of information with them that's going to be important. When I look at those, I try to focus on the processes and the systems that are in place to really try to help set the facility up, or whatever work it is, set it up for success. When I look at the processes and the systems, first I look at, okay, what actually needs done? And that's looking at developing standards or adopting other standards that are in place to help set that expectation for what needs done, how often it needs done. Then we're going to look at how it's actually getting done. So once you actually have those standards and expectations, how is the work actually going to get done? And that really comes down to the type of training that we're doing with the people. Training is going to really depend on the work that's being done in the equipment, because if you have an in-house team that's going to be doing the work, well, yeah, you're going to need to make sure you're looking at in-depth technical training so that they understand the proper ways to do the work that they're looking at. However, depending on what it is, a lot of facilities may not have they may have a third party coming in and doing a lot of this work with them. Well, now we're not going to need to look at a lot of that in-depth technical training. It may come down to some other type of training around the process, or honestly coming down to just a simple checklist and training on that checklist to be able to identify a lot of the key elements as you're stepping through these processes. In our organization, one of the major elements that we're really looking at and focusing on right now is switchgear maintenance and breaker testing. And with that, we're trying to focus on the processes there and go through and actually look at, okay, as I'm developing this checklist, that's all being done by a third party. Okay, are we identifying the plant contact? Let's explicitly call out who the plant contact is, who the vendor contact is. Okay, are we contacting the utility to make sure that we actually have them scheduled to come out and pull the power? Are we going ahead and actually contacting IT to make sure that we're actually going to power the servers down in the proper fashion, not just pulling the plug on them? Are we going to go ahead and look at the fire alarm system and other precautions like that to make sure that while the power is going to be out, we're not going to have a fire alarm system in place, or maybe a security system? What precautions are we taking there while the power is down? So just really trying to step through that process to make sure that we do set the facilities up for success, to make sure that they understand what's done and they're able to actually get the job done in a smooth way.
So a lot of that has to deal with, then you're working with operations closely for when you have that time to do it. You're working into their schedule. So your process is to find out their schedule, which gets them on board with you. It's kind of like, hey, which is a big thing. It's the ability to let the plant operations and management know that we're here to be part of what you do. We're not here to disrupt what you do. That's excellent. What else do you do to
Absolutely.
overcome these challenges?
Well, along that point, when it comes to working with the plant and operations, honestly, having a good plan in place is really one of the major keys. The better the plan, the more confidence that the facility and the plant management and operations are going to have in your plan. The more detail, the better. So I really start looking, honestly, a year out to make sure that we're in fact budgeting the work. That way we get quotes and it's actually in the budget. So when it comes time to do the work, they're not saying, well, who's going to pay for this? So looking far enough out, that way you can also look and say, okay, what time does this actually work with the plans? I'm not going to come in and say, okay, hey, you guys got to get this done now. And they're like, dude, we're running 7 days a week right now. We don't have time for downtime. Okay, well, let's look a little further out and say, okay, well, let's look 2, 4, 6 months out and say, okay, let's plan this around your guys' schedule. But also when it comes to the plan that you have in place, again, the more detailed the plan, the better. If you can sit them down and say, okay, first step, they're going to come on site, then we're going to do a walkthrough, then we're going to fill out our job hazard analysis, then the utility is going to show up, then this is going to be the next step, then that's going to be the next step. That's going to give them the confidence in what you're proposing for them to get the job done in a safe and reliable fashion. When you're looking at that, though, one of the main things to look at, one, give them that plan and have those conversations well beforehand. That way you're not showing up a day beforehand saying, okay, here's the plan. Well, did you think about X, Y, or Z, or how do I get the plant down and ready for the power to be shut off to the facility?
Right.
Make sure you give them time to digest it and actually provide any feedback to you. And then also if there is any risk associated with it, hey, here are some portions. If we say we're doing breaker testing, if we have these breakers fail, okay, here's kind of what we're going to do to try to get the plant back up and running, or here's a potential setback in it. If it does happen and the plant does have to stay down longer, they're not going to like it, but at least it's not the first time they've heard about it. They've at least been partially prepared for it.
So you have just thrown out a lot of information, excellent information. I'm going to recruit you for another Take 5 because you've brought up a question that I want to ask you, but it's going to take another 5 minutes to do it. So if you'll join us on another Take 5 soon, the question is going to be this: it's okay to plan a year out, but stuff happens now and stuff has to happen. From your process standpoint, you may determine that things have to happen now. So you got to balance the time out here and the time here. If somebody says they want to have a meeting with me, the best time to do that is 2 weeks from now when my calendar is open. If they say now, it's all gone. But what if somebody important needs to have a meeting with me? I got to figure out. I know that's a different approach, but that goes to your processes and your systems. And I really want to dive into how you're doing that, but that's for another time. That's excellent. Thank you so much for joining us on this Take 5, Bill, and we will be back with you.
Awesome. Thank you.